I've been asked by a few people to do a review of the grinder that I've been using. It's a Grizzly G1015 or G1015. It's a 1 horsepower. It turns at 1725. The contact wheel is directly mounted to the motor, and as you can see coming out the left side there's an arbor for a buffer, which saves you when you're starting out from having to buy 2 different machines or a second motor to make your own buffer, which you can certainly do at a later date. I like the Grizzly in that it was affordable. They sell for just under $500. They come with an 8-inch contact wheel. Shipping's about $75 or $80, and I also bought, and what's mounted on there now is a 10-inch contact wheel. Now if you're not going to hollow grind, it doesn't really matter, and I'll explain that here in a second, but let me go over some of the other things that come with it. It does come with a tool rest. The tool rest just mounts down here, and I've got it set up to use against the contact wheel. You can also extend it up higher, as you can see, hopefully. There's some adjusting you can do on that. And to adjust it higher, there's a flat platen that bolts on here and looks like this. I don't really use the flat platen too much anymore. I did when I first started, but just don't use it very much anymore. The tool rest can also sit up in the flat platen area up here. The reason I say about the 10-inch contact wheel, because for hollow grinding, you're going to take the knife, and I grind on the edge of a belt like that. I don't hold it flat onto the surface. I just use the edge of the belt. You're going to draw it that way for one side, and that's no problem. But on the other side, by holding it on the edge there and drawing it that way, with the 8-inch wheel, which is an inch closer because of the 2-inch diameter and the 1-inch radius, you tend to hit the motor. At least I did when I was first starting out. So the 10-inch wheel was very important to me. It made it a lot easier. It still takes practice, as with any grinding. I did keep the 8-inch wheel, and what I've done with it is I've added a 1/4-inch felt to it, and that's my soft grinding wheel, so it's actually an 8.5-inch wheel now. With grinding with the felt on there, after I heat treat, that's all I use, and quite honestly I do very little hand sanding because of that. It makes a big difference. After you get used to grinding on the Grizzly, you can really grind with the 8-inch wheel. It's not that big a deal. I mean, a 14-inch blade or something like that might be a bigger problem, but my heat treat oven doesn't handle anything that big anyway. So 12 inches is about the biggest I can do, well, biggest I've done, and it was all done on this. So it worked well. Like I said, buffer on one side, contact wheel on the other. This arm adjusts up and down, so when you put on the smaller contact wheel, you have to raise it up, and there's actually 2 knobs to tighten it. With the larger wheel on there, the second hole is actually covered up, but it's got the 1 knob and then a collar here to tighten it up, and it works just fine. You can't put on small wheels like a 1-inch wheel or a 2-inch wheel or a 3-inch wheel and get too much done with them on here, but you learn to overcome those obstacles. As I said, for under $600, you know, it was great. It's a lot cheaper than a brand new KMG or Bader 3 or Wilton square wheel, all of which are great grinders and are more versatile than the Grizzly, but for under $600 instead of $4,000, big difference. And you can make knives on it. All the knives that you've seen that I've made have come off of this grinder, and I may as well show you how I start a hollow grind on this. I'll get the camera set up and we'll get started with that. I was putting together the video and I realized that I left off a couple of features that may be important to consider if for anybody that's considering or interested in buying a Grizzly. There is a tracking adjustment on for the belt. It's this knob, turn it, and the belt will track to the left or to the right. All big belt sanders are going to have, at least all that I've seen, are going to have some kind of tracking adjustment. And another feature on this one, you can see in my messy workshop, it's kind of cluttered, but that bar, the adjusting bar here, tensioning bar, is back at a little bit of an angle. It's not straight up and down. It moves. You can put it straight up and down. You can actually lay it all the way down flat. I can't here because I just don't have the room for it. I don't like it straight up and down because it's a little close to my nose when I'm grinding. This is a pretty good angle for me. If you were to lay it down flat and use your flat platen, then you'd have a flat, be working on a horizontal surface rather than a vertical surface. So that adjustment's available too, and it may be important to consider when you're, or if you're looking at a Grizzly. Alright, now we'll get to the grinding part. Alright, this is a blade that I've profiled. It's out of an old rusty sawmill blade, and I've taken off some of the pitting on it, and I don't have a surface planer, and what I do when I'm doing that is just hold it down here and grind on the bottom of the contact wheel. Obviously you've got to be very careful, but you got to be very careful with all aspects of this. So let's see how hollow grinding works on the Grizzly. And that's the start of a hollow grind using a Grizzly grinder. Thanks for watching.